Hello and welcome to the YYC Soccer Podcast. My name is Jason Kmet and my co-host is Scott Strasser. Hey, Scott.
Hey, Jason. How you doing?
Good. Feels like it's been a while since we did this.
It does, doesn't it? It's Thursday night. It's our usual recording time for these episodes, but it's the first time in a while that we didn't do a weekend recap. So it's been a whole week since we spoke last, I think.
No matches involving most of the Calgary teams that we follow. So yeah, there didn't seem to be much reason to do a Sunday episode. But that being said, I think we're still going to have a few things to talk about this week.
Yeah, we still got 4 or 5 things that we want to go over. And as usual, we managed to get an interview guest for this week. So we have an interview as well.
Yeah, our interview this week is with graduating SAIT Trojan Nikki Charlton, who had a very successful 5th season with the Trojans, and she won the CCAA Women's Player of the Year.
Yeah, which recognizes the best Canadian collegiate soccer player of the season. So definitely an outstanding award for Nikki to get in her swan song campaign with the Trojans. Obviously, the team's season, while dominant in the regular season, it didn't end the way that the Trojans were hoping. But a great way to go out by winning such a prestigious individual honor. So yeah, we'll run that interview shortly, Jason. But if you are a new listener to the YYC Soccer Podcast, would you like to relay what exactly we talk about every week?
Sure. We focus on soccer in Calgary at the amateur, collegiate, and professional levels. We talk about the teams and the players from the city soccer community, starting at the grassroots, going through the amateur, post-secondary leagues, all the way up to the professional level.
And this week, our topics will include Cavalry and Calgary Wild players who were called up by their respective national teams. We'll talk about Calgary connections in the NCAA tournament, which has gotten going. And as mentioned, we'll run that interview with Nikki Charlton. And then we will have a few other odds and ends to fill out at the end of the episode.
Yeah, so I think this week we're going to start off with SAIT because in addition to the interview, there's been some other big news out of SAIT regarding the soccer team. So what do you think? Start there?
Couldn't agree more.
Hi, this is Nikki Charlton, and you're listening to the YYC Soccer Podcast.
As we've teased already, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners are already aware, the SAIT Trojans have had the same coach for a long period of time here, and he is now going to be stepping down. He's going to take a bit more of a background position with the club.
Yeah, big news today, or I guess it was a few days ago. John Talerico, he's been head coach of the SAIT Trojans since 2015. And he broke the news that he would be retiring to his players after their final game at the ACAC conference, at the ACAC championships on October 26th. So, yeah, big story in Calgary soccer. Jason, I think you and I have both spoken to John over the years, and there's going to be big shoes to fill for whoever his successor is.
Yeah, there'll definitely be some big shoes to fill, and he's still going to be around a little bit. As I understand it, he's going to be involved with recruiting and some more things along those lines. But yeah, he's given up the reins of being the guy at the top of the pyramid in this program right now.
For sure. And his ties to SAIT actually go back even further. According to a press release from the Trojans, he came on board with the men's team as an assistant coach in 2008. And then they took on the women's program in 2012. And it was 3 years after that he landed the head coaching job for the women's team. And since then, I mean, they have had quite the run of form. As we talked about a lot on this podcast, they really are a dominant program in the ACAC South. And yeah, in Jason, the 3 or so years that we've been talking about the team on a regular basis, I mean, they've just been a juggernaut in collegiate soccer, not just in Alberta, but they've been to nationals a few times.
Definitely. So we can talk about John quite a bit here, probably on our own, but this might be a good opportunity to segue into our interview this week because our guest can probably offer a lot more insight than we can.
Yeah, Nikki does give John a shout out, which was nice to hear. But let's run that interview to hear from this year's CCAC Women's Player of the Year, Nikki Charlton. I'd like to welcome Nikki Charlton to the podcast. Nikki is a graduating member of the SAIT Trojans women's team. This year, she was named the CCA Women's Player of the Year, meaning the best collegiate player in the country. Nikki, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Now, we always like to start by asking our guests about their kind of minor soccer career and what teams and clubs they played for before advancing on to post-secondary soccer. So can you kind of share with us how you got into the game, which clubs you played for before you joined SAIT?
I started at Mackenzie United up until U10, and I was playing like Div 5 and 6. I was actually playing with my sister, and then we transferred to Foothills, and I joined the Div 1. They were called the Pixies at the time. So that was like kind of my first experience in a like high level soccer situation. And so I kind of bounced back, like I would get cut and then I would make it again. So I bounced back between Div 1 and 2 until I was 16, I want to say 15. And then I got cut and then just kind of stayed Div 2. And I kind of really found my momentum with that. Like I just found the culture was more my style. I made like a really close group of friends on the team, and the level of play was where I kind of wanted to be at, and I was just like not really looking to go any higher or like trying to go to the Div 1 team. So that was kind of my youth career.
Okay, and how did it come to be that you ended up recruited by the Trojans?
Oh yeah, so it was pretty random actually. So I graduated and that was kind of right at the end of COVID. So everything had kind of settled down. I didn't think I was going to play soccer actually in college or like after my youth. And so then I had a friend Tegan who was on the Trojans and she was like, "Oh, you should just come to a practice." And I was like, "No, I don't think I want to." Kind of done with it. And then I did and it kind of took off and John was like, "Yep, do you want to be part of the team?" This was the year I think they had like lower numbers. So cuz some years there was a bunch of people trying out and this year I don't think there was many. I think it was a low number. So John was like, "Yeah, if you want to just keep coming to practices and then we'll kind of reevaluate in preseason." And then he gave me the papers and I signed. And I was in a program that was only 2 years, so I thought at most I'd only be playing 2 years at state.
So you did end up playing the total of 5 years. So you took another program after you finished your first one?
I did, so I really didn't know if I wanted to graduate or not, but, like, the team is just so fun, and I really think the culture is everything at SAIT, so I just thought, I should come back, so I ended up doing a one-year certificate, and then I just turned it into a degree to play all 5.
And we want to ask you about your years with SAIT, where obviously the team has been probably dominant in the ACAC South throughout that run, particularly in the regular seasons. The team is so strong. What do you think is the reason for that? Considering in the ACAC you see a lot of player turnover. A lot of players do only play with the team for a couple of years. How has SAIT managed to maintain this level of excellence?
Honestly, I think it goes back to, John, the head coach, and then Jess and Matt. Like, I think the respect every player has for them and the environment they make for us is just hard to walk away from. And whether we were getting the results or not, I probably would have still came back anyways. So I think kind of the overall experience that they make for every player is what brings us all back. I would say it's a pretty supportive team, so the toxic environment's not there and everyone wants to be there, and I would say it's more like a fun hobby for me than like, I've never thought of it as a task, but I don't think many people think of it like that at all.
How does it feel being awarded top women's, CCA player in Canada? That's it's a big award, a big achievement. How does that feel?
Yeah, it's pretty surreal, honestly. It's like kind of imposter syndrome. Like I never, as an athlete, feel satisfied with my performance where I like feel I'm deserving of an award like that. Cause I always think, oh, I could have done more. I could do this and that. So awards like that, it's just kind of hard to sit with. Or once you get the award, like I've always thought, okay, what's next? Like we gotta say try and win provincials if you win an award at the banquet on the Thursday. Like you're always thinking, okay, games tomorrow. That so it was I was really trying to sit in the moment and just finally appreciate kind of all the work I've put in. But I was shocked at the banquet. I was not expecting it. So yeah, it feels pretty good and it would have been nice to have my whole team there because it felt like I didn't do it just on my own, so.
Nikki, I want to ask about any personal changes to your game this season. According to the SAIT website, you scored 7 game-winning goals, converted 80% of your shots on target. So you're really clinical in front of net. What kind of training or preparation did you do to be so clinical up front this year?
I would say the biggest change was that one day in practice, kind of halfway through the season, they put me winger just for a drill. It was pretty random. And then it ended up clicking. And so then the next game I played winger, scored 2 goals. And then I would switch. I'd go midfield second half, winger first half. And so I would say I scored most of my goals as a winger. And that was pretty cool. Like, midfield, you're always distributing the ball and everything, but winger, you really can take people on. So I think that kind of gave me the opportunity to be a bit more selfish and take that shot in front of net.
This was your 5th year, as we've already talked about. So you're one of the veteran players on the club. How did it feel to be in that position? Like, as the years went on, did you feel like you took on a more prominent leadership role? And what was that like?
I'm definitely one of the vets who probably take or should be more serious in certain situations. So I felt like sometimes my relationship with the rookie players is a bit more fun, and I could probably be a bit more keep the team in order a bit more. But being a vet, it's a nice privilege because and it's interesting, like the way people kind of look up to you and come to you in certain situations and seek comfort during the high pressure moments. And again, it like falls back on that imposter syndrome because I'm like, I don't feel like I can comfort you because I like, why would you choose me? So it's kind of been an interesting journey seeing people rely on you as a vet and then you kind of having to step into that and like seeing that what you say actually can change, your rookie's perspective in that moment or like kind of rally the team. So yeah, I mean, I feel really fortunate to be a vet and like alongside some other vets who we all kind of have the same mindset and goal.
As mentioned, incredibly dominant in the regular season, but struggled in the playoffs. And then that kind of echoed what happened in 2024 as well. So I wanted to get your perspective on what kind of happened in the last 2 provincials, considering that we didn't get to watch those games, Jason and I.
The 2024 provincials, it was the finals. We were playing Concordia. I would say that was one of our most dominant performances in a sense. Like we kind of all were in a flow. We were winning 1-0 until the last 15, I want to say. And then we just kind of made some critical errors and lost focus and they scored both their chances. That game, that really sucked losing that one, but it was a different feeling because I felt like we were still proud of the effort we gave. And then this year, so since we finished first in our regular season, you get a bye straight to the semis. And so we do have a lot of vets, but we also do have a really young team. And so I think in the game, like we all weren't connecting. It kind of felt like everyone was independent out there. And for everyone, we lost 1-0 in the semifinal. And so, yeah, like I also just think that our headspace was so strange that day. And like you could hear Nate, they would cheer for every tackle, every pass they'd make, and they were just so in it. And then we couldn't even like get a breath out there. It was such a weird feeling. And so that loss, I think, hit me the hardest. I never been emotional over a loss. I'm just not an emotional player, but yeah, that one really struck deep. I just think because like for me personally, I felt like my performance, didn't help the team. And so, yeah, this provincials was a bit more of a hit, especially being the last year.
Looking back on your career now, I guess, like, how would you say playing for the Trojans has impacted you, personally, professionally? Like, talk about your growth there.
Well, it's definitely changed my life. I think John, as a coach, has changed my life. I always had a positive outlook on soccer, fortunately, but like even just the way he navigates during team talks and like high tense moments, it's definitely kind of helped me in a professional sense how I would talk to a team at work or something. And so I just think he's such a great leader. So looking back over the years, just yeah, the leadership that I've probably learned, and then as well the discipline. I was pretty loosey-goosey before, but now, like, arriving on time is really important to me, and also the friendships I've made. Every year, the group of women I played with was just incredible, and I always thought, "Okay, it can't get better than this," and every year, it was just amazing, and so I feel grateful for the people I met. I think that was the biggest takeaway for me.
Do you have a specific favorite memory with the team?
Probably when we won provincials in 2023, and there was, I think, 14 of us, so we were a really small roster. One was injured of the 14 and one was a goalie, so we were just kind of grinding that out with, 12 players and then sometimes 14, like, when they were feeling up for it because of their injuries and stuff. So it was just a really close group and probably not our prettiest soccer, but we were so tightly knit and, like, in it to win it for each other. And that provincial moment, because we tied the final 2-2 and then won in PKs, I think that was just the most, kind of overwhelming memory I have.
Now that your career at SAIT is over, do you have further goals and aspirations looking ahead? Playing further in your career, or what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, so, I never really thought about it too much until this year, and I haven't thought about kind of like a certain goal, I would say, after this, but it's definitely strange thinking that soccer will be done. So I don't know if maybe I'm gonna try for, some other competitive soccer situation or just kind of play women's and, just focus on my career now and stuff. But like I never really thought I would go anywhere after college. So it's honestly only just been on my mind now, but I don't really have much that I've thought about.
And what's your degree in, or your diploma in at SAIT?
Yeah, so I have a diploma in architectural technologies, and then I'm getting and completing my degree in business major in marketing.
So I imagine you have that on your mind as well as you.
Mhm.
You tried out for the Canadian futsal team.
Yeah, yeah.
What was that like?
It was so cool. It was, probably the most high intense week of my life, but it was a really cool experience. So, kind of how it happened was, I got a call after our futsal provincials last year from Jerson. He's the head coach of the women's Saskatchewan team, and he's also a coach for the Canadian women's team. And so, he just said that, they would like me to come try out. The tryouts in Montreal, they're putting together this team really quick because of the late note. Like, they also found out pretty late that they could put a team in CONCACAF, I believe. So it was a pretty quick process because we had one training camp and then the team would be decided, and then the team was going to, I believe it was in Guatemala. And
I think so,
so
yeah.
I flew out on the Wednesday and arrived, and then, every day it was, usually like a training session. We would do some film, we would do some team bonding activities, and then, either a second training session unless it was a game, but on it was a really good experience, because, I thought in that situation, the competition was high, like, you'd probably meet some personalities you'd clash with, but I just met the most amazing women there, and they were so kind, and everyone was just so happy to be there, and it was a overall really positive experience, yeah.
We always like to give our guest an opportunity to kind of have the final word. So if there's any shout outs you want to make, or anything else you'd like to say about your career with the Trojans, the floor is yours.
Well, honestly, the only shout out I have is John just announced his retirement, so I just wanted to, pretty much say thanks to him for everything, and everything that I've accomplished pretty much goes back to him and his coaching. But yeah, that's kind of all I have.
For sure. I had a feeling I mentioned that. I wasn't sure if how long ago he had announced it. All right. Well, thank you so much, Nikki. We really appreciated the conversation today, and wherever soccer takes you in the future, we wish you the best, and good luck with all your future endeavors, whatever they may be.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This, was a really cool opportunity. I appreciate it.
I'm Shamit Shom. This is the YYC Soccer Podcast.
All right, Scott, let's talk about some international football. There's been a whole bunch of big international matches here over the last several days, teams attempting to qualify for the World Cup. And, at the same time, there's been a whole bunch of friendly matches and a whole bunch of Calgary players accepted the call for their respective national teams. And we have some results.
A lot of the familiar faces and names that you would hear associated with national teams were in action and this week, and some of them had some really big moments and games, right? Shamit Shom was called up again by the Bangladesh national team for an Asian Cup qualifier against India, and I guess this could be considered like an international derby, Jason, a big game, and the Bangladeshis won it, 1-0.
Yeah, I think that's the first time they defeated India in something like 22 years, which is, pretty fascinating. I'm certainly no expert in South Asian soccer, but these are countries that have huge populations. But, India has never really focused that much on soccer. But it seems like it's much more loved in Bangladesh, and they've really been a bit more aggressive in trying to advance their national program here with bringing in players like Shamit Shom and some other players with ties to the country. So kind of interesting to see how this is all playing out. And I don't know if you saw, but I posted it on the social media. Shom basically, after the match, went back to his ancestral hometown for a few days for a holiday. And did you see the media following him?
Yeah, this has been so cool to watch his moment in Bangladesh. He's been treated like a superstar there. He gets mobbed at the airport when he lands to come play for the team, and they've really taken to him, the Bangladeshi fans. And I would highly recommend, if you're not following Shamit Shom on Instagram, because you get to see these behind the scenes clips from his international duty, and yeah, it was really cool to see the posts that he put out this week and the fanfare that the Bangladeshi team has generated recently. It's great to see, and it's cool that Shom has been involved in it.
I find it fascinating because, he's never been a player which has really been a spotlight grabbing player. Even where he plays on the field is it's usually not a glamorous position. And so he's always sort of slid under the radar in North America. And now he goes there, and yeah, he's like a rock star. I think if he hasn't done it, he should hire himself an agent and start doing like endorsements there or something. Like he could probably do all right on that.
Yeah, and maybe get on a Dancing with the Stars show, because we did get to see some of his moves in the locker room after the game. I don't know if you saw that.
Oh yeah, I saw that. That was pretty funny. I enjoyed that. So, all right, let's talk about some other players from Calgary that played in matches. There was really one player who was in World Cup qualifying, and that was Mikhail Gerasimenkov, and he played for Moldova against Israel in UEFA World Cup qualifying. But he got the start, but Israel won quite handily, 4-1 over Moldova.
Yeah, I don't believe he played in the game before this from Moldova, which was against Italy, which would have been super cool for him. But great to get another cap for the Moldovan national team. I think this would be his second. So hopefully he's getting his foot in the door of that program, and he can continue to represent his homeland. Yeah, big game against Israel, but didn't end up the way the Moldovans wanted it to. Just happy to see that Mikhail Gerasimenkov, who had a fantastic 2025 season in the CPL, is getting his just rewards for those performances.
Yeah, he's going to look back at it. I think he'll be pretty happy with his 2025.
The other Calgary players who were involved for their national teams included Kanija Elva, who played for St. Lucia in a friendly against St. Vincent, and Ali Musi, who played for and started for Somalia in their friendly against Bahrain.
Another disappointing result for St. Lucia. They lost 3-1, but Elva scored the one goal for St. Lucia.
Yeah, do you know if he captained the team as well?
So I spent a long time just trying to find that he scored the goal. I'm presuming he did. He usually is the captain of the team.
Yeah. For Musi, I think the headline is that, Jason, you put down here that Somalia's 2-1 win marks their first win in 6 years. Is that true?
Yeah, it's been a long time. And this was a friendly against Bahrain, and they won 2-1. And Musi started. He didn't score a goal.
This is Jacqueline Savixi, and you're listening to the YYC Soccer Podcast.
So the Calgary Wild players, some of them have also been called up by their respective national teams. Jason, a couple of matches coming up this week. Australia and New Zealand will be well represented by Calgary Wild players in particular.
Yeah, Michaela Moore and Ali Green are both been called up by New Zealand, and Callie Johnson is going to play for Australia. So that marks her return to the national team for the first time since she was injured back in, I don't know, when was it? Maybe like May or June or something like that. Definitely a lot of Wild representation in those matches.
And then Jackie Sawicki, she's representing the Philippines, but not on grass, Jason. This is kind of an interesting thing you found out.
I'm always trying to pay attention to what's going on in futsal, and this is the first ever futsal World Cup, and Canada qualified for it. Canada won CONCACAF. I don't know if you know that or not. They're present at this tournament, but the tournament's in the Philippines, and Jackie Sawicki is going to play for the futsal team. I honestly don't know how much experience she has in futsal, but...
And then she'll also be joining the senior outdoor team for their upcoming matches in December. And then finally, Michelle Romero, she was called up for Venezuela's games next week.
Hi, this is Naima Ingleton, and you're listening to the YYC Soccer Podcast.
All right, Scott, let's talk about NCAA tournament matches. Not much to talk about here, as there isn't very much Calgary representation overall, but a little bit. And last week's podcast guest played earlier today, that being Thursday. And
yeah, if you didn't hear our episode last week, we chatted with Naima Ingleton, who is originally from Airdrie, but is playing her college soccer for the West Virginia University Mountaineers. And they had qualified for the NCAA tournament, and they took on Georgetown University, who are ranked 10th in the nation today, and fought hard. It ended a 1-1 draw, but Georgetown did win out on penalties 4-3. However, both of the West Virginia players from Calgary scored their penalties.
Yeah, I believe Anna Howard took the first one, and Naima Ingleton took the second one. But yeah, in the end, they lost out, so that's... a tough way to go out. And otherwise, on the women's side, there's one other Calgarian involved, and that's Sammy Reimer for Iowa. They play LSU. Don't have a result for you quite yet.
Yeah. And then the other connection we could mention, Soraya Bailey. She's not from Calgary. I believe she's from Edmonton. But she did get called up and sat on the bench for the Wild a couple of times this season. She has a game Friday, that being the day this episode is released. That's against Iowa.
I would tell you that she was a freshman this year at LSU, which is a pretty big time, soccer school in the States. And she just killed it in her first year. Just to sort of give you some perspective, like, she's a freshman at a big time NCAA school. She scored 9 goals and had 7 assists this year. Like, that's crazy. Like, I don't know where that would place her in her conference for scoring, but 9 goals as a freshman, that's pretty impressive.
Definitely. And yeah, I don't think she played at all for the Wild in 2025, but she did get talked about by head coach Lydia Bedford in the post-game press conference, where she was called up alongside Clara Monk. So, and speaking of Clara Monk, Jason, I guess we could mention that her sister Izzy, who we have had on our podcast, she's graduating this year. So I was wondering if we might see her sign for the Wild next season.
I've kind of gotten the impression that she's got aspirations to play pro soccer, so that might be entirely possible. There are a couple other Calgarians that are graduating from NCAA schools this year, but I think she's kind of the one that I would say that we should be keeping our eyes on, either with the Wild or with some other pro team, I would think.
Yeah, and other players who are graduating include Sydney Remington with Vermont, Rebecca Grisdale from Maine, and I forgot to mention, but Izzy Monk. She was playing for Arizona State this year after transferring there from Memphis.
Men's tournament got going actually today, and I could only track down one Calgary connection to the men's tournament, and that is a former Cav U21 player.
Yeah, good find, Jason. Gabe Smith, a sophomore for St. John's, New York. He played the last 2 years for Cavalry U21. He scored the second goal for St. John's in their game against West Virginia today, which ended in a draw, but West Virginia did prevail in overtime 4-3. So I don't think we're going to see another Sydney Wathuta-esque storyline on the men's NCAA side this year.
Yeah, it doesn't look that way, unfortunately.
This is Izzy Monk, and welcome to YYC Soccer Podcast.
All right, we have a couple other things we want to kind of talk about before we wrap things up here. And I guess the first one here is a story that is a little bit bigger than the local Calgary scene. It touches all of Alberta because it's involving Alberta soccer.
Yeah, this was kind of an eyebrow raiser that I saw a few days ago. CBC Calgary, their court reporter, Megan Grant, broke a story that J.R. Figueiredo, who was the president of Alberta Soccer, was removed from the board and suspended for 5 years after an independent harassment probe found that he had engaged in workplace harassment and inappropriate conduct in the workplace. So, yeah, pretty big story on the Alberta soccer front. I don't think we know much about Figueiredo. He was pretty new to Alberta soccer. He was only appointed president in early 2025. Jason, I had never met him, but I did see him at the unveiling of the Calgary Soccer Center's new dome last spring, where he did give remarks and mentioned how he's from Brazil originally. But yeah, I guess Alberta soccer is in the midst of a presidential overhaul at the moment.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a big story, a difficult story. I don't know really what to say. Obviously, I want to be respectful of the situation.
Sure,
but,
fair enough. Me too. I guess the only other thing we can mention about this is that there is going to be probably an update in the very near future. Alberta Soccer just posted notice of a special meeting the other day. There's going to be a meeting on December 9th. It's virtual. It has to do with Figueiredo's removal. There's a notice with a bunch of info on it on the Alberta Soccer website. If anybody's curious about it, they could probably find it quite easily through a quick Google search. But, yeah, obviously a big story in Alberta Soccer this week that I felt like, while it's not the usual stuff we talk about on this podcast, it was still important to mention, I thought.
For sure. All right, Scott, I think last thing here is I want to ask you, how insufferable do you think I'm going to be by the time we record next week?
Why do you ask me that?
Because on October 26th, I tweeted something out, put it on Blue Sky on social media. You may recall it. I have it in front of me. My prediction, CPL will announce the end of Valor FC on Friday, November 21st. I think it's happening tomorrow. And then the other thing is on next Thursday night, right about the time I record, despite protestations by some of their fans when I posted this, York United will announce they're changing their name to Inter Toronto, as I mentioned in the summertime.
Yeah, I think someone on a CPL subreddit posted a screen grab that showed something online, like the club had already changed their name in terms of scheduling for next year or something along those lines, and then they changed it back.
And yeah, and apparently, I think it's been season ticket holders. I think the season ticket holders or supporters or something have been invited to a very special announcement on Thursday evening. So, like I said, right about the time that we're going to be recording, that news is going to be happening. So yeah, like I said, I think I'm going to be insufferable next week. So I'm just warning you in advance.
Sounds good. I look forward to it. Thank you for listening to the YYC Soccer Podcast. You can have this episode downloaded to your device as soon as it becomes available by subscribing on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any other platforms. Check out our website at yycsoccer.com, where you can look through our episode archive and find other ways to listen, including our YouTube channel. We also have links to buy my book, Here Come the Cavalry, chronicling the history of professional soccer in Calgary. You can leave a question or comment in the Contact Us section of our website. You can also interact with us on social media through X, Instagram, or Blue Sky, where our username is @YYCSoccer403. Thanks for listening.